Victoria Chen stood before the floor-to-ceiling windows of Damien Sterling's penthouse, her hands trembling as she clutched the pregnancy test. Outside, storm clouds gathered over the Manhattan skyline, mirroring the anxiety building in her chest. She had rehearsed this moment 1,000 times, imagining Damien's face lighting up with joy, his strong arms wrapping around her in celebration. After 18 months together, she believed they were building something real. Damien emerged from his home office, phone pressed to his ear, barely glancing in her direction. His tailored suit was immaculate, his dark hair perfectly styled. Everything about him screamed success and control. Victoria waited until he ended his call, her heart hammering against her ribs. "Damien, I need to talk to you about something important," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. He checked his watch, irritation flickering across his handsome features. "Can it wait? I have a conference call in 20 minutes. "No, it can't wait." Victoria stepped closer, holding out the test. "I'm pregnant. We're going to have a baby." The silence that followed was deafening. Damien stared at the test, then at her, his expression transforming from surprise to something cold and calculating. Victoria felt the temperature in the room drop. "That's impossible," he said flatly. "I've been traveling constantly, 3 weeks out of every month for the past 6 months. The timing doesn't work." Victoria's stomach twisted. "But you were here in September." "Damien, you know I haven't been with anyone else. Why would you even suggest that?" His laugh was harsh and devoid of warmth. "Victoria, let's be realistic. You work at an art gallery surrounded by wealthy collectors. You've had plenty of opportunities. I'm not stupid enough to believe this convenient timing." The words hit her like physical blows. "Convenient timing? I love you. I thought you loved me. How can you stand there and accuse me of this? Because women like you always have an angle." Damien's voice was ice. "You probably thought getting pregnant would secure your future. Lock down the wealthy boyfriend. Maybe get a ring and access to my assets. Well, it's not going to work." Tears streamed down Victoria's face. "I don't care about your money. I care about you, about us, about this baby we created together. There is no us anymore." Damien walked to his bar and poured himself a drink. "And that baby isn't mine. I want you out of my apartment tonight." Victoria couldn't breathe. The man she loved, the man she had given 18 months of her life to, was throwing her away like garbage. "Damien, please, just listen to me. Get out, Victoria. If you're not gone in 10 minutes, I'll have security remove you." She stumbled backward, grabbing her coat and purse with numb fingers. The pregnancy test fell from her hand and clattered on the marble floor, but she didn't stop to pick it up. She just needed to escape, to get away from his cold eyes and cruel words. The moment Victoria stepped outside, the storm broke. Rain poured from the sky in sheets, soaking through her thin coat within seconds. She walked without direction, tears and rain mingling on her face, until she couldn't distinguish between them. The streets blurred around her. Her chest felt like it was being crushed. Every breath was agony. 3 blocks from Damien's building, Victoria's vision started to tunnel. Black spots danced at the edges of her sight. Her legs felt like water. The stress, the shock, the cold rain. It was all too much for her body to handle. She tried to keep moving, but her strength failed her. The last thing Victoria remembered was the sensation of falling, the wet pavement rushing up to meet her, and the distant sound of someone calling out. Then darkness swallowed her whole. Owen Hayes was walking home from the community center where he worked when he saw a woman collapse on the sidewalk ahead. He didn't hesitate. Dropping his umbrella, he sprinted through the rain to reach her. She was unconscious, rain streaming over her pale face. Owen immediately checked for a pulse, finding it steady but weak. He noticed her condition right away, and his concern intensified. This woman needed help, and she needed it now. Owen lived only 4 blocks away. Without thinking twice, he carefully lifted her into his arms. She was light, her body limp against his chest. "I've got you," he murmured, even though she couldn't hear him. "You're safe now." His modest apartment was on the 3rd floor of an older building. Owen carried her up the stairs, fumbling with his keys while keeping her secure in his arms. Once inside, He placed her gently on his bed and immediately worked to get her warm. He draped his warmest blankets over her, turned up the heat, and positioned a small space heater near the bed. Her clothes were soaked through, but Owen was careful to respect her privacy, simply covering her with dry blankets to prevent hypothermia. For the next 2 hours, Owen sat beside the bed, monitoring her breathing and pulse. He made hot tea and soup, keeping them warm in case she woke. He had no idea who this woman was or what had brought her to such a desperate state, but something in his heart told him she needed more than just medical attention. She needed someone to care. As dawn broke through his small apartment window, the woman finally stirred. Her eyelids fluttered, and Owen leaned forward, relief flooding through him. "You're safe," he said softly. "Take your time. You're in my apartment. I found you unconscious in the rain last night." Victoria's eyes opened slowly, confusion clouding her features as she tried to make sense of her surroundings. The room was small but clean, with simple furniture and warm lighting. A man sat in a chair beside the bed, watching her with concerned brown eyes. "How are you feeling?" he asked gently. "You gave me quite a scare last night." Victoria tried to sit up, but dizziness washed over her. The man immediately stood, his hands hovering near her shoulders in case she needed support. "Easy," he said. "You've been through a lot. I'm Owen, by the way. Owen Hayes." "Victoria," she managed, her voice hoarse. "Where am I?" "My apartment. I found you collapsed in the rain last night. You were unconscious, so I brought you here to get you warm and safe." Owen sat back down, giving her space. "I hope that was okay. I was worried about taking you to a hospital without your consent, but you needed help immediately." The memories came flooding back. Damien's cruel accusations, the rain, the feeling of her world shattering. Victoria felt tears burning behind her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. "I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't found me." Owen's expression was kind but troubled. "Can I get you something? Water? Tea? You should eat something too. I made soup." Victoria nodded, surprised by her own hunger. Owen disappeared into what she assumed was the kitchen, returning moments later with a tray. The soup was simple, but smelled wonderful. As she ate, Owen sat quietly, not pressing her with questions. "Why did you help me?" Victoria finally asked. "You don't even know me." Owen looked genuinely puzzled by the question. "Because you needed help. That's what people should do for each other, isn't it?" The simplicity of his answer made Victoria's heart ache. In her world of art collectors and wealthy donors, kindness usually came with strings attached. But this man had saved her life, expecting nothing in return. Over the next few days, Victoria stayed in Owen's apartment while she recovered. He insisted she take the bed while he slept on the couch. He made her meals, ensured she was comfortable, and treated her with the gentleness that felt foreign after months with Damien. One morning, Victoria woke to find Owen in the kitchen, attempting to make pancakes. He had a small bandage on his thumb, and the pancakes were slightly burned around the edges. When he saw her watching, he smiled sheepishly. "I'm not much of a cook," he admitted, "but I wanted to make you something special." Victoria felt something warm bloom in her chest. "You hurt yourself." "Just a small burn. Nothing serious." Owen placed a plate in front of her. "I hope they're okay." They were the best pancakes Victoria had ever tasted, not because of their flavor or texture, but because they were made with genuine care. As they ate together, Owen told her about his work at the community center, teaching children art and helping with after-school programs. "You work with kids?" Victoria asked, genuinely interested. "It's the most rewarding thing I've ever done," Owen said, his face lighting up. "These kids come from difficult situations, but when you give them art supplies and encouragement, they create the most amazing things. It reminds me that creativity and hope can exist anywhere." Victoria found herself opening up to Owen in ways she never had with Damien. She told him about her work at the gallery, her love of contemporary art, her dream of one day curating her own exhibition. Owen listened with genuine interest, asking thoughtful questions and encouraging her ambitions. 3 weeks passed. Victoria's morning sickness had started, and Owen researched everything he could about pregnancy, nutrition. He made sure she had ginger tea for nausea, kept the apartment stocked with healthy foods. and accompanied her to her first prenatal appointment. In the doctor's office. When the ultrasound showed the baby's strong heartbeat, Owen squeezed Victoria's hand. She looked at him and saw tears in his eyes. This man, who owed her nothing, was more invested in her child's well-being than the biological father had been. One afternoon, they were walking through a small park near Owen's apartment when Victoria's shoelace came untied. Before she could bend down, Owen knelt in front of her and tied it carefully, his fingers gentle. "You don't have to do that," Victoria said, her voice catching. Owen looked up at her, his eyes warm. "I want to. Let me take care of you, Victoria. You're taking care of someone else right now. You deserve to be cared for too." That evening, Victoria realized she had fallen in love with Owen Hayes. Not the desperate, anxious love she'd felt for Damien, but something deeper and more real. Owen made her feel seen, valued, and safe. He showed her through his actions that love wasn't about grand gestures or expensive gifts. It was about daily kindness and genuine partnership. The next morning, Victoria was making tea when there was a knock on the door. Owen answered it, and Victoria heard a familiar voice that made her blood run cold. "I'm looking for Victoria Chen. I was told she might be here." Damien Sterling stood in the doorway, looking as polished and handsome as ever. But Victoria no longer saw him the way she once had. Now she saw the coldness in his eyes, the calculating nature of his charm. "What do you want, Damien?" Victoria stepped forward, her hand instinctively moving to her growing belly. Damien's eyes followed the gesture. "I made a mistake. I was angry and said things I didn't mean. That's my child, Victoria. We need to talk about this. You said the child wasn't yours. You accused me of lying and threw me out in a storm." Victoria's voice was steady despite the rapid beating of her heart. "You made your choice that night. I was wrong. I've spent weeks thinking about it, and I want to make things right. Come back to me. I'll give you everything you need: security, comfort, a proper home for our child." Owen stepped closer to Victoria, a silent show of support. Damien noticed, and his expression hardened. "Who is this? Some rebound you picked up?" "Owen saved my life," Victoria said firmly. "He's shown me more genuine care in 3 weeks than you showed me in 18 months. Whatever we had is over, Damien. You're really choosing this over what I can offer." Damien gestured around Owen's modest apartment. "I can give you mansions, cars, everything money can buy. I don't want your money. I want respect, trust, and genuine love. That's something you never gave me." Damien's facade cracked, showing the anger beneath. "You're making a huge mistake. When you're struggling to make ends meet, remember that I offered you everything. And when I'm happy and loved, I'll remember that I chose the right man." Victoria took Owen's hand. "Please leave, Damien. Don't come back." After Damien left, Victoria turned to Owen. "I'm sorry. I should have told you he might come looking for me." Owen cupped her face gently. "You have nothing to apologize for. I'm just glad you stood up for yourself." "Owen, I need to tell you something." Victoria took a deep breath. "I'm falling in love with you. I know the timing is complicated, and maybe it's too soon, but I can't keep pretending I don't feel this way." Owen's expression softened. "Victoria, I've been falling in love with you since the moment I saw your strength, your kindness, your resilience. I love you, and I love the child you're carrying. If you'll let me, I want to be part of both your lives." Victoria kissed him, pouring all her emotions into that single moment. When they pulled apart, both of them were crying and smiling. "That a yes?" Owen asked. "That's a yes to everything," Victoria replied. 5 months later, Victoria stood in the delivery room, gripping Owen's hand as another contraction rolled through her body. The pain was intense, but Owen's presence made it bearable. He whispered encouragement, wiped her forehead with the cool cloth, and never left her side. "You're doing amazing," he said, his voice full of awe. "So strong, so brave." After 12 hours of labor, Victoria heard the most beautiful sound in the world, her daughter's first cry. The doctor placed the tiny, perfect baby on Victoria's chest, and she felt her heart expand in ways she hadn't known were possible. "Hello, Hope," Victoria whispered, tears streaming down her face. "We've been waiting for you." Owen leaned over them both, his own tears falling freely. She's perfect. You're both perfect. Hope Hayes had her mother's delicate features and her father's warm eyes. Wait, Owen wasn't her biological father, but in every way that mattered, he was her dad. He had been there for every appointment, every midnight craving, every moment of fear and joy. 3 months after Hope's birth, on a beautiful spring morning, Owen took Victoria to the same park where he had tied her shoelace months before. The trees were blooming, filling the air with the scent of flowers and new beginnings. "Victoria," Owen said, taking both her hands in his, "when I found you in the rain that night, I had no idea you would change my entire life. You've shown me what it means to be truly connected to another person. You've taught me about strength, resilience, and grace." He knelt down, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. "I want to spend the rest of my life being the man you and Hope deserve. Will you marry me?" Victoria was crying before he finished speaking. "Yes, Owen. Yes, 1,000 times yes." The ring he slipped onto her finger was simple but beautiful, a silver band with a small diamond that caught the sunlight. It wasn't the most expensive ring in the world, but it represented something far more valuable: genuine love and commitment. Their wedding took place 2 months later in the community center where Owen worked. The children he taught had decorated the space with handmade flowers and colorful banners. Victoria's colleagues from the gallery attended, along with Owen's friends from the center and both their families. Hope, now 5 months old, wore a tiny white dress and slept peacefully in her grandmother's arms as her parents exchanged vows. "I promise to choose you every day," Owen said, his voice strong and clear, "in big ways and small. I promise to be the kind of father Hope can be proud of, and the kind of husband who sees your worth, even when you forget it yourself." Victoria's voice trembled with emotion as she spoke her vows. "I promise to trust you the way you trusted me when I had nothing. I promise to build a life with you where kindness matters more than anything else. I promise to show Hope what real love looks like by loving you every single day." When they kissed, sealing their promises, everyone in the room stood and applauded. This wasn't just a wedding. It was a celebration of love overcoming adversity, of choosing compassion over bitterness, of building something beautiful from broken pieces. Years passed, filled with joy and challenges. Victoria and Owen had 2 more children, a son named River and another daughter named Grace. Victoria eventually opened her own small gallery showcasing work from emerging artists. Owen continued his work at the community center, eventually becoming its director. They never became wealthy in the traditional sense. Their home was modest, their cars were practical, and they budgeted carefully. But their lives were rich in the ways that truly mattered: love, laughter, purpose, and connection. On Hope's 10th birthday, as the family gathered around the dinner table, their youngest daughter Grace asked a question. "Mom, Dad, why don't we live in a big house like some of my friends? Don't we have enough money?" Victoria and Owen exchanged a knowing glance. "We have exactly what we need," Victoria said gently. "We have each other, and that's worth more than any mansion." "Your mother's right," Owen added. "Real wealth isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in love, in relationships, in the positive impact we have on others." Hope, now a thoughtful and kind 10-year-old, smiled. "I think we're the richest family I know then." That night, after the children were asleep, Victoria and Owen sat together on their back porch, watching the stars. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you hadn't found me that night?" Victoria asked. Owen pulled her closer. "I try not to. I'm just grateful that I was in the right place at the right time. That rain brought us together. I used to think that night was the worst moment of my life," Victoria reflected. "But it wasn't an ending at all. It was a beginning. The beginning of everything that matters." Owen kissed her forehead. "I love you, Victoria Hayes. I love you too, Owen Hayes. Thank you for saving me." "You saved me right back," Owen replied. As they sat together under the stars, their children sleeping safely inside, Victoria understood the most important truth she had ever learned. Real love doesn't announce itself with grand gestures or expensive gifts. Real love shows up in the rain. It holds your hand through the hard moments. It ties your shoelaces when you can't reach them. It chooses you every single day, without reservation or condition. That kind of love. The kind that sees you at your worst and chooses to stay. The kind that builds you up instead of tearing you down. That's the kind of love that transforms everything. And Victoria and Owen had found it in each other on a rainy night when both their worlds fell apart and came back together more beautifully than either could have imagined. Their story wasn't about money or status or fairy tale perfection. It was about two people choosing kindness, trust, and genuine partnership. It was about building a family on a foundation of love that would last forever. And every time it rained, Victoria would smile, remembering that sometimes the storms in life don't come to destroy us. Sometimes they come to wash away what was never meant to be, making room for something infinitely better.